In a word, the Anthropocene, which is the sixth major extinction that this planet will experience, unless we do something to change it. The Anthropocene is caused by human behavior, manifest as climate change. And climate change affects everyone. It goes beyond all of our differences, our politics, our religion, our beliefs. It doesn't matter. It affects all of us. And the only way we can deal with it is to have a major shift in consciousness. And that's the great opportunity presented by this challenge for us to come together as humanity and recognize that we all live in this one planet. And if we don't come together, we will not survive. Well, certainly in the West, we've got to move away from our short-term focus, whether it's quarterly reports, whether it's four-year election cycles. Everyone's interested in just surviving the next quarter or the next term, and the problems we face are way beyond one quarter or one term. They're not going to be solved unless we have a much longer range view of what's going on in this world, and we go beyond our individualistic, selfish, self-centered approach, and we look at ourselves as global humanity. Business affects so many lives because most people work in some form of business or institution. And that's where so much of our resources are concentrated, our financial resources. So if you can mobilize businesses to address the larger challenges we face, we're actually mobilizing the greatest number of people and the greatest number of resources to have the most impact. So it's a very practical solution. Businesses are properly led and directed can play the biggest part in addressing the challenges we face, more so than governments, more so than religious institutions, in my opinion, because that's where the power and the finance and the resources are concentrated. Going beyond the short-term view. Leaders have the opportunity to be a bigger voice, to see themselves as part of a system. No business exists in and of itself. It's part of an economic system, it's part of a taxation system, it's part of a cultural system. And so if we can see it as part of a bigger system, then we can start looking at the whole universe, the whole planet, as a system. And so the leaders themselves need to step out of their narrow, constrained focus, which is really their greatest opportunity and their greatest opportunity to be a leader, to get out of that short-term, limited, only my company counts focus. Several ways. I've led several organizational transformation initiatives, and one thing is very clear to me, that the initiative will only work when the leader buys in 100%. And I don't care if the leader is the CEO or a division leader or a team leader, if they are not committed to the process, which means they themselves have to commit to transforming. It can't work like, oh, it's good for them, like everyone else, they're exempt because they're the leader. No, they themselves have to commit to the process. When they commit to the process, and that means overcoming fear, that overcoming their being open to realizing that they don't know everything, that they are not the end of the whole solution. Everyone contributes, and they're there to facilitate that. When they recognize that and they become engaged in the whole process, then everyone can be mobilized. my experience in my own company and working with other companies is that every person wants to experience that their life is meaningful. And where do people spend most of their time? They spend it in a business of some kind, some work, some form of work. So the work itself needs to be meaningful. And when people experience their work as meaningful, that unleashes passion. And that is a natural human desire. What we see in so many organizations is resignation. Why? Because they don't see any future for themselves, for the company, for their family, etc. So a leader has a tremendous responsibility to shift that mood of resignation into one of great possibility. And that's possible to do. The way they structure the company, the way they construct their reward systems, the way they construct their policies and their practices, and they practice what they preach. And you infuse that throughout the organization, then you unleash tremendous potential. And when you unleash that kind of potential, it definitely shows up in financial performance. I mean, there's just studies after studies after studies. This is good business practice. For leverage, I want to work with leaders because it gives you the most leverage. I mean, you can, because a leader has the greatest impact, and therefore, if you work with the leader, you're actually taking what you are passionate about, what you care about, and you're extending it more effectively because you're working with people who can then take that work and pass it on. So by working with leaders, it's just a very practical way to make the shift that this planet, as humanity, we need that shift. That's the only way we're going to deal with the major issue that we're facing today, which is our potential global extinction.